Mount Shasta.
Located in Northern California, about an hour south of Oregon, is 14,179 feet above sea level within the 2.2 million acre Shasta Trinity National Forest. It is the second highest peak and the southernmost volcano in the Cascade Range. And it appears as though no one has a clue as to when it last erupted. The United States Geological Survey says 3,200 years ago. The Global Volcanism Program says 870 years ago, while sailors of the French La Pérouse expedition say they saw it go off just 200 years ago. But regardless of its past, in 2018, the USGS updated its list of the most hazardous volcanoes in the country, and Mount Shasta ranked 5th out of the list's 18 very high threat volcanoes. I don't really like those odds. Now, in order to put the whole of Mount Shasta craziness into context, I first need to start with the tale of two fabled cities about 1 million years ago. Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean and Lemuria, or Mu, in the Pacific. And according to legend, between these two, they pretty much owned the rest of the world. They are both very technologically advanced. More advanced than we are. And even though Atlantis had the advantage over Lemuria, Atlanteans were a benevolent society that lived in peace with the Lemurians for millennia. However, about 25,000 years ago, the Atlanteans got a little too big for their britches and decided world domination sounded like a good idea. The Lemurians said, "I don't think so," and the two begin a war to end all wars. By the time they're done, their advanced weaponry has done so much damage to the surface of the Earth that the tectonic plates shift, causing the magnetic poles to shift so suddenly that a massive global flood wipes out both civilizations. Millions of people die on both sides. A few surviving Atlanteans evacuate to Agartha, an underground city inside the hollow Earth. Upcoming episode, anyone? The last of the Lemurians fled to Mount Shasta and established a city called Telos, which legend claims now houses 1.5 million highly evolved spiritual beings. Now, the Native American tribes in the area will tell you that Shasta was created by the Old Man of the Sky, who, somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 years ago, wanted to come down to Earth from the heavens, but he didn't have a way to climb down. So he made a hole in the sky and shoved dirt and ice through the hole into a pile until it was tall enough for him to climb down onto the Earth. Then he creates life on Earth, but goes a little nuts about it and makes too many grizzly bears, which scare the crap out of him. So he hollows out the mountain to create a teepee to stay in. They say you could still see the smoke rising from the top until the white man came. Native American tribes are documented as living around that area going back 7,000 to 10,000 years, but it's likely the Lemurians are homeless and looking for new digs before that. So maybe, and I'm just throwing this out here, maybe the Lemurians built the mountain themselves as a new gated community condo complex for themselves. I mean, if they had the technology to destroy the known world, maybe they have the technology to build a mountain. And one of the reasons I say this is because of the location of the mountain. Most mountains are part of a range. I mean, Shasta's part of a range, the Cascade Range, but it's still just sitting there in the middle of relatively flat country. Like somebody just plopped it there. I mean, if the Lemurians didn't make it, then the Old Man of the Sky sure did. Fast forward to the summer of 1883. Frederick S. Oliver, a teenager at the time, is helping his family stake out their mining claim. And as he's writing down notes and coordinates of the claim's location, his hand starts shaking and writing notes in his notebook against Frederick's will. He understandably starts to panic and runs home, with his hand trying to write the whole time. Frederick's mother doesn't panic. She just gives him a piece of paper to write on. By the time this episode is over shortly thereafter, Frederick and his mother are shocked to realize that what he has written down is the beginning of some weird dissertation. Over the next few years, Frederick would occasionally have his hand commandeered by this outside force named Telos the Tibetan, who would dictate a few more pages here and there. Telos is a spirit entity who has lived a previous life as an Atlantean, who obviously finds it pretty important to get a hold of somebody who can write down information about the Atlantean civilization. Although, I would think that if they had been that technologically advanced, they would have thought to invent paper. Or maybe Telos is just really bored. Anyway, this goes on until 1895, when Telos has apparently said all he needs to say. Frederick Oliver dies 4 years later at the age of 33. We will come back to Frederick in a moment. Skip ahead a couple of years to 1904, when a British prospector, J.C. Brown, comes to Mount Shasta on behalf of the Lord Cowdray Mining Company to look for gold. One day, while exploring the mountain, Brown stumbles across a rockfall, and it just looks kind of odd, like maybe there's something behind it. So he starts to clear it. And it doesn't take long before he realizes that behind that pile of rocks is a tunnel leading down into the darkness. And seeing as though he's there to look for gold, a tunnel into the mountain is awesome. So he starts down the tunnel. Now, the fact that there's a tunnel there is not that unusual. There are lava tubes all over the mountain that go on for miles, the longest being Pluto's Cave, which is hikeable for over a mile before you get to the unsafe parts. Who knows how long it really is? So JC starts hiking for miles and miles into the darkness. By his estimate, he hikes 11 miles before reaching the end. And what's at the end seems way more valuable than gold. He finds a network of rooms and chambers almost like an abandoned ancient city. He finds ornate statues that seem to glow in the dark, crystals, tablets, weapons and shields made of gold, and items that to him seem like machines of some kind. But the most shocking find is what looks to be a burial chamber that holds at least 27 mummies ranging from 6 to 10 feet tall in ornately decorated robes. Now, obviously, he's very excited about this find. It is an archaeological Disneyland. But not being an archaeologist, he's not quite sure what to do. So he covers the tunnel entrance and pretends he didn't find anything until he can figure out his next move. 1 year later, so 1905, Frederick Oliver's mom publishes the book of writings her son had channeled over those few years, called A Dweller on Two Planets, which turns out to be a whole accounting of the Atlantean civilization and technology. He even describes some pretty modern concepts like quantum mechanics, anti-gravity, zero-point energy, and mass transit. And the mass transit vehicle of choice? The cigar-shaped airship. Now, apparently, the Lemurians are just a little smarter than the Atlanteans because they don't need to channel anyone to get their history recorded. They manage to write down their history and leave it in the capable hands of the Hindus in India, who then share the information with a guy named James Churchwood, who then publishes a book in 1926 detailing the history of Lemuria, which he renames Mu.